Hello. Hello, this is Patrick. I just wanted to do a quick dowsing on some of your comments you wrote. One was, I just did this for entertainment's sake. Don't attach a lot to it, but I wanted to compare what O'Reilly did, years ago compared to what David Letterman did. And it's kind of interesting when you douse it. O'Reilly was like a negative 15, all right? Which is, yeah, what he did was slightly inappropriate. That's kind of like what that means. He kind of stepped over the line. But it's lightly. And David Letterman was a negative 90, that's physical. That's very aggressive physical. That's really, really bad what he did. So there's really no comparison between the two. And look at the repercussions. David Letterman essentially got away with it. It's because there's a double standard in our country at this time. And that's just all across the board in life, no matter where you are. And that was the purpose of measuring that. This double standard is wherever you are, And people, if they hear you in the coffee shop, let's say, they're going to overhear you and challenge you. So, you just got to be careful and mindful where you're at. Even though the majority of people, they just want to make the country, kind of work, have pride in the country again, and things of that nature. We know it's not working, and it's because a conscious effort is making it the way it is. Everything you see was designed. This has been going on for a long time, and as I showed you, when they killed Kennedy, that was the turning point. The dark hand that runs the country now, that runs 75% of the power, only had 35% at that time. And did you know the big turnaround? Kennedy was a big turnaround, and the next big turnaround was Gerald Ford. Watergate was a complete setup. And I was really never a fan of Nixon. He was always kind of a strange bird. But once they got rid of him, they got a big jump. There's a big jump in power. That's when they went over the 50% mark, was with Gerald Ford. That was Watergate. So Watergate, and when you go look at it, how it was orchestrated between the Washington Post and these other players, you can see it's all this mafia type connection. And they're very dark. They're very anti middle class America. Really, the workers. It's really the idea was to take the power from the workers. And before then, you had a lot of powerful people. Even when you're looking at somebody like Martin Luther King, I know you don't want to compare them all like they're similar, but they are, because they really rose from the people. They're an expression of the soul of the people. That's why they're there. La Follette of Wisconsin, and that guy down in Louisiana, you remember him? He built the Capitol. The guy, they made movies on him. I can't remember his name. Anyway, those were expressions of the middle class, the lower middle class, the working people. They actually had power. The votes, even though they were being tampered with, they still got through because they won by so much. And they were able to bring these people out. And that's what the fight is sort of about. Now the power is really concentrated in a few hands. Look at who owns the media in this country. It's just a few people. 90% of the news outlets owned by 5 people. Back in 1970, when I was in high school, it was 170 people owned over 90%. See, you went to towns, they had 2 newspapers and things. So they have money now. Look at Murdoch when he bought the Wall Street Journal. He paid twice as much for the premium. He paid $8 billion. It was only worth like 2 or 3. When you're looking at revenues, it wasn't a business decision. Why are they buying these up? Because they have an agenda to create a culture that is really oppressive spiritually. It's really, really dark. When you measure what it is, it's satanic. It's really Lucifer. And Lucifer, by the way, is, when I douse him, I get a 0. It's really, really dark. People are saying, oh, Lucifer is okay. No, he's not. He's not. He's an enemy of the United States. He's an enemy of the American people. So realize that, and when you hear people talk about that, that's a red flag. Don't fall for that stuff. And okay, and Le Pen, she'll win. She'll be one of the two winners, I believe. But it looks like she's not going to win the election by the polls. But it's not that. They're going to rig the election. I think what you don't understand about France is it's one of the most centralized nations on the world. It's been that way for a few hundred years, since the revolution. And you have to study it a little bit, but their main schools and colleges, if you don't get into that one, you're not going to ever be president or anything, have a career in the bureaucracy, nothing. I mean, it's more centralized than our Yale and Harvard. And I remember in the 90s, one time when Russia was collapsing, and he was like, a Russian ambassador once said to the Europeans, he goes, you want to see communism work? Look at France. That's a system of communism work, because it's extreme socialism even when the right wing gets involved. This party is similar to what the Democrats did here. They are so deep in their deep state that there's no way for Le Pen to win really an honest election. She'll win an honest election. She won't win the fix. And when we have fixes here, for example, it's a couple percent. And they fixed the one in the Netherlands too. That guy actually won as well. And when you have like 12 people running, they take a little bit from all the 12 candidates and then give it to the candidate they want. So it doesn't look like it's fixed all that much. Anyway, that's the way it is. And but I may be wrong. It would be very interesting if she won. It would be the end of the EU essentially. And then for the British, they're having a UK election coming up in June. The Conservatives looks like they're going to win. My dowsing says they'll win. And well, we'll see. Dowsing is very tricky when they're fixing the election. When they fix football games, it's kind of like, well, what am I measuring? Am I measuring the actual game, or or measuring the fix? And sometimes there's a little bit of a dichotomy going around. And if the people are vigilant in the second round, and if the eyes start focusing on the count and how it's done, we might have a different story. So I'm not guaranteeing this. She has, I think I doubt she had a 25% chance of being president of France. And that's just a deep state. Okay, and then the other one I wanted to go for is, well, that's it. Okay, I just wanted to get there, and just remember, as we unfold, this is a slow-moving revolution, as it were, and Trump is still not in control of the government, but he's getting stronger and stronger with each week, and I figure, let's say by July 4th, it's going to be by the end of June, right around there, July 1st, he'll start getting the upper hand. And you'll start seeing, and we're going to have more disturbances, through fall. But the whole political correct movement and those sort of things will start to die off. And it could be pressure will start being applied and light being applied. But it's an ongoing battle. Look, Bill O'Reilly was untouchable. You thought he was untouchable, and they took him down. It was a coordinated attack. They did it from all different, they released a New York Times article. It was nothing. These are issues, so he doesn't know how to ask for a date. I don't know. He's actually the generation, he's 67, so he's a generation ahead of me, kind of. He's like in the 50s, in a way, in the 60s. So he must have been like in the 60s, he was coming of age, teenager. And they really do have a different thinking, And the people in the 50s that were teenager then, they're really different, So each generation, the relationship between men and women, and in my generation, let me see. I think the feminist thing was just starting to take root. as I'm looking back at our relationships between, and in the workplace, I always had women bosses in a way. They were always there, and I don't know about where we are going. I think people are going to start to ask, what is, see, there is natural law here, and the natural law is butting up against uh, uh, fake culture. That's what it is. So we're at the point where we have fake culture, and no one knows the rules. You know, as they say, microaggression. The microaggression is actually psychic attacks on everyone. No matter what your race, no matter what your gender. I mean, uh, when you're being attacked, you can feel it in your solar plex. You get neck aches and stuff. You can feel it. You can feel it in the office place, and they call them microaggression, like they're doing it onto them, but actually they're the perpetrators, and it's all over culture, and everybody's walking on eggshells. That's essentially what we're at now, and it's very stressful, and it creates disease. It's actually like eating toxic food. You know, what's a toxic food? Like I talked to you about, like soy. So it's like eating soy. You're just getting these little microaggression of attacks, and these are psychic attacks. These are spiritual attacks, and they embed in your auric field. You got these knives in your back and things. You're walking around with pins, and they're there. They're real, and they can have an impact. That's why smudging is very good. And outdoors, the sunshine, it cleanses the aura. The ocean is wonderful for cleansing the ocean. You ever notice when you go into the ocean and you come out, the salt water is crystalline. It's liquid crystals. It goes through and it takes all the negativity out from you. And, you know, that's why people who swim a lot in the ocean, who live in the ocean, they look vibrant. They look very healthy, even though they may be alcoholics. In general, that does work. I mean, it's not a cure-all, and you go on and on and on. You can do a sweat lodge. All those things cleanse your auric field. And microaggression is actually used on the people, on all the people, for control, to bring about the fake culture. Anyway, you kind of get my drift on that. All what I said is confirmed through dowsing. You know, here, I'm going to measure what I just told you in the last 5 minutes. Can you give me, at the highest level of the divine, how correct this is? I just said, what I just said. I got a, whoops, I got a wind coming up. Let me see if I can, I got a little breeze today. I'm getting a real high number here. I can just see it. Here we go. Usually, go, 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 go. I'm getting like 100%. What I just told you was correct. All right? And this is from really, really high sources. And anyway, have a good weekend. Try not watch too much news. And I'll bring you up to date on a few other items that I had insight. I did have a dream the other night where I think it's referring to, I might be soft pedaling some things. You know what I mean? Like how bad it could get. Because I had a dream of, I went to a subdivision, possibly in Florida. There are mansions, and the key is mansions, but they were like those really ugly ones that are like on a quarter of an acre, and they're like boxes, and you got like 5,000 square feet in them. And I was walking through there, and I go, oh, this is interesting. And then I saw one was burnt out, destroyed. And then I saw another one, and I go, oh, that's not too bad. There's only a couple of them burnt out. And then I walked further into the vision, and then the whole sections were all destroyed, burnt out. It's like after World War II or something. You just have the shell and smoke coming out. And I think it's referring to, you know, we it's a metaphor. There's two things going here. One is individually we're mansions. You know, in each room, psychologically, is what we do in our life, and that's how psychologically we are designed. You know, so you're in the living room, the bedroom, the kitchen. Each one, you know, in the dream state plays a role, and that's why they use that in the Bible. You know, about mansions. The other part is being I think it's accusing me of what do you call it? Soft pedaling, like what's coming up. I don't mean to do that. It could be much worse than I know, and maybe 40% of people would be affected in the next few years. So I don't mean to soft pedal it, and it could be something coming up. You know, this battle we're talking about. Okay, thank you and good luck.